look at this beautiful tall chair. It's today's project on the American Woodshop, so won't you join us?
The American Woodshop with Scott Phillips is brought to you by
Woodcraft, since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Pro Tools, for tool pros. Rikon Tools.
Woodcraft Magazine. Projects, plans, and web links designed to help you make wood work. P.S. Wood, home of Timberwolf Swedish silicon steel bandsaw blades and super sharp scroll saw blades. A bed to sleep on. A table to share meals. A house that feels like a home. The Furniture Bank of Central Ohio, providing furniture to neighbors in need.
Here's the tail of wood. Cherry crest rail, walnut legs on the back, Cuban mahogany on the front, hard maple, Honduran mahogany stretcher, maple slat bird's eye. You gotta love it. Now let's go build this in the American Woodshop. Here are 6 perfect maple seat boards, but for those to work, we have a lot of bandsaw cutting to do. Look at this piece right here. This will be the backbone of the chair. This is one of the 2 back legs. And then I made a template for this, traced it out on a piece of reclaimed barn wood, sapwood and all, and we'll cut that out on the bandsaw using a heavy-duty blade. This curve right here, you can see is the back chair rest. This is what your back will go into, so it has to be curve cut. And to make those cuts, I just made a bow jig with a surveying string and a white marker, made it so it's 5/8 of an inch, and full length is 18 across, like that. You make that out of an 1/8 inch piece of white oak that has a lot of strength to it, and it's adjustable. Move it to that notch to create different curves. So we'll cut that out on the bandsaw. And then the leg assembly. This is the key to the chair right here. What's going on is I have 2 mahogany legs here. And if you look at this top rail, as it's called, it's 1 1/8 inches thick. It's 4 degrees right there. You don't have to get out the angle jig because you can go to the miter saw. And at the miter saw, you just cut those 2 angles, make them complementary, and then we will domino these in left and right, and then cut out a graceful curve using the bow jig. So really and then the legs get tapered as well. So whatever you do, be sure to read, understand, and follow all the instructions that come with the tools and products you use in your wood shop. Work safely. Safety glasses, these are hearing protection. And when I'm doing anything really dusty, N95 dust mask. Over here on the bandsaw, this is a heavy-duty blade. It's 1 inch thick, 3 TPI silicon steel. And what I can do is turn on dust collection and sculpt away the parts now that you've seen the white layout lines on. Bring it up to speed and make those cuts. Let's start on the leg first, right here. Make sure everything's locked and you've got good tension on the blade. The wider the blade, the easier it is to follow your cut lines for straight work like this. This is always fun. I'm just going to cut right off. All right, one more little trim cut here. We need a flat spot right there. And now I can rip that down using the rip fence, but I have a few more curve cuts to make first. Now this is the crest rail right here. Beautiful grain pattern on that. And that's how the bandsaw cuts those curves. Now I'm using the rip fence on the bandsaw parallel to the flat of the blade. And this is called a tapering jig. It's set at 1 1/4 degrees right now and locked in place. And there's a foot that this goes up against, this 1.5 inch square that's 32 inches long. So you look at it, that's tapered, and I'll joint that smooth with a hand plane in just a second. But let's make this cut. And the other thing I want to do is lower the bearing guide assembly. That gives me more control, but this is a guard too. So I'll make those cuts, get that tapered, and then we'll put together some parts with the domino. Straight from the bandsaw, I'm using a number 7 plane to smooth out those rough cuts. And so I want you to look at this. This will be as you're looking at it, the right, which would be this side, leg, and the taper's in here, and it's on the back as well. But these 2 outside edges are nice and straight. And that's how you want to keep it. I've taken the left leg, so you'd face right here, so that's the left leg, and I have it set up on the bench so I can use this. Now watch this. Do not do this at home. See that cutter? I have that set up to make a cut right here. It's on dust collection. Going to make a cut, and you're going to see how this works. I've got it located the right place, and you want heavy duty, the big dominoes. These are called loose tenons. Now I'll make this cut, you'll see what's going on. Push it until it stops. Turn it off. And now what we can do is see the key to this entire chair. You see that right there? We're going to get these to fit perfectly, and it helps if you knock it down a little bit with sandpaper, some 80 grit, because these do swell. These are hardwood. And when you put modern glue on this, it's unbelievably strong. So that's solid. So that's on the left-hand side, one part of the joint. I'm going to cut this off with a razor saw to go into this front rail like that. It's going to be buried deep in this 1 1/8 inch thick hard maple piece right here. So I'll get set up to make that cut. You'll see it on the end right here. By the way, there's that curve that I cut out on the bandsaw. But before I did that, I mitered those 2 outside angles at 4 degrees at the miter saw. So I'll set this up. It's all about tenons and mortises, the slots, and this loose, solid hardwood sliding tenon goes in and holds it nice and tight. And then same thing on the other side, right side, everything's indexed, so we do the next step. And this is key because honestly, once you get the front right, it sets up the angles for everything else. So now I'm taking this matching thickness stretcher, some people call it a rail, and I'm putting it under the legs, and everything's drawn tight together, selecting the tiger maple grain of this, and that's nice and tight right there. And using a black marker, dark marker, index at the right place, I lay in the lines, and remember, on the inside, those are tapered now, the legs, so that changes that 4-degree angle slightly. Over to the miter saw, trim that off, make the domino cuts here, here, there, and there, and join it all together. So, the moment of truth. Did we make those cuts at the miter saw the right way? So all the angles line up with the tapers. And let's drive this home and see the fit. Remember, this is all loose fit right now. And there's no daylight. That's perfect. So now, you're looking at how we build out the rest of the chair. Over to the bandsaw to curve this on the posts, no glue yet, to match the seat so it lays in, and then we'll cut out the back stretchers to join the back legs. Here's how the back legs shaped up, and the way I made those identical, I used double-sided tape, joined them together, lining up the rough edges, and then I used a joiner plane, or you could use a belt sander, to make them uniform and sand them to perfection. And look at this. This is a flat, 2 1/4 long, and this is where the seat rails go. But you can see that I did some domino cuts on this face and one down here on the inside stretcher. And right about now you're confused. You go, I don't understand. Now watch what happens. I use that hard maple rail right there that's square cut. So that leg assembly down here is square. And then this is a seat area right here, and there's a left that goes right there, and there's a right that goes right there, okay? And then the front legs come up and marry to that, and there's a notch. It all connects together. It's very easy to do. Now, I'll get this perfected. I'll use a microplane to cut the angle down at about 5 degrees on this back edge here, so the seat boards create a saddle when we lay those in there. But it's time for a road trip. Time to head to Susie's shop to see a wonderful rocking horse plan. Check this out. This is our very own rocking horse design. You need 2 of these 3/4 inch thick pieces. Now, Susie, what in the world are you doing?
I'm cutting the other side out, of course.
Tell us how you're doing that.
Well, I've got it stabilized on the bench with the clamps and everything for safety here by the door, so most of the dust will go out, but I've got a dust mask, safety glasses.
And the pattern is traced out. There's the left side, right side. You want the best grain out, so she selected the patterns the right way. And then once you get it cut out, we'll get on to staining it and finishing it with a good outdoor oil.
And then you just follow the line and that's it. You just take your time. Try not to get that blade in a bind. And this is a good straight cut pretty much, so I don't have to worry too much about that. You just keep going and it'll be cut out in no time at all. Well, I'm using a water-based finish, the cedar color I really like. It's really going to bring out that zebra finish in this. It's water-based, and just brush it in. And I've got some gloves over there for you. Hand me the gloves.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
But we really only need the gloves when we start to wipe this out.
Right.
So to get the right grain penetration into the darker wood here, so it gives it that zebra look, you let it soak in for about 5 minutes. Now, It's raining here on the metal roof, which I think you can probably hear, which means this water-based finish is going to dry a little bit slower than normal, so we might let it soak in a bit longer. So she'll get that brushed out, and then we'll wipe it down to see the grain. And once that's done, we'll let that dry 24 hours. And it's exterior semi-gloss top coat, water-based again, and that will be good for outside.
And make sure you get the edges. You really want to seal these edges because that's going to be what's going to be in contact with the ground. So don't forget those edges.
Right, and this is exterior grade, 3/4 inch thick, BC plywood. The B gives us this wild grain pattern. The C is just kind of a muted, flat, no grain. You want the grain, best grain out. So we'll get that done.
Yeah, look at that.
Beautiful.
You start out cutting out a horse and you end up with a zebra.
Okay, now she'll get all the finish work done, and then I'll put it together back at the American Woodshop. Nicely done. Good work, Susie. Glad you got your barn to work in.
Yeah, me too. Man.
Susie does great work, and this is proof right here. The rocking horse, and the finish is perfect. That's my secret weapon. She does all the finishing on the American Woodshop, for the most part. Okay, now look at this. The eye is this heavy-duty construction or structural fastener. And people go, oh, those aren't strong. I beg to differ. These are rated at 1,100 pounds of torque pressure. These will never fail. And then I want to point out the dowel rod that goes through here. See this? That's 1.25 inches, and the key to this is using that type of Forstner bit, 1.25 inches, to inset that dowel rod 1/4 inch in this 3/4 inch plywood. And then, well, here you go. Here's the test drive. The seat, 2x10 Southern Yellow Pine, dried, and then this is built to last. And the cool thing about it is, hey, it brings out the kid in you. I accept no responsibility whatsoever if you use this inside. This is an outside toy, okay? And then the other thing is on the ends, 24-inch long, 3-inch wide red oak bumpers. That's a safety deal. That stops it from rocking over. So you can have a ball on these. Make one for every child you have in your life, and you will be their favorite. Well, that's the rocking horse. Now let's go finish the chair. I love this plan, and for more details on this, check out Facebook, okay, on the American Woodshop site. Now, 10 in here, 10 in there, with the dominoes in place, and watch how these all come up, and oops, should lock together. Everything will line up perfectly, because that's just the way it is, right here. Some assembly required, as it were. Okay, so that looks really cool right there. And the bottom, this is the dry fit. And see these legs? For those woodworkers that know, this is Cuban mahogany. A friend of mine, George Reed, gave me enough to make 4 legs like this out of very rare wood. And I cherish this and take care of this. And this will be a special place in our home. So now on the very bottom, here's another piece of mahogany, Honduran mahogany, that comes up and it gets screwed in place to make this whole assembly rigid. Again, everything gets glued. This is just a dry fit, okay? But this is key. See this piece right here? It notches in these rails. Let's get that in there, like so. And the curve here has to match the curve of the side rails. So the seat boards will lay flat on that. And to do that, we're going to go to the bandsaw, and I'm going to use a 3/8 inch blade and notch this out. I'll lower that down ever so slightly. But before I do that, I need to cut the graceful curve that I used the bow jig that you saw earlier to form to create that curve of the seat. So dust collection on, and let's make those cuts. Now when you back out of the cut, use the brake on your bandsaw to bring that blade to a stop. That's why I like those brakes. They save a lot of time. And now, this is the easiest way to notch it. Again, to a stop, back out. And now I'll do a nibbling cut to square that off. Don't be taking your fingers in there by that scrap. Push it out of the way safely and then remove it. On to assembly. Look at that. Okay, and that is all a perfect fit. And what we're doing now is called the glue up, which means after we did the dry fit, we know all the joints are perfect, and this is the key, oops, mess, Scott, to getting a good glue up. You use the right glue for the job, something that doesn't set too quickly, and you use an acid brush to brush out the glue in the joint. Not on the tenon, that's the mortise, and you want it to be in the back as well because you don't want this to fail, okay, because there are no screws in this area, and you don't put it on the loose tenon because if you push that in, it's just going to squeeze right off. And so that's good right there. I want to brush out some glue on the end grain right there. And now what I can do, with glue already in the mortises on the back front rail or stretcher right here, is I can bring that up and I can draw it all tight and clamp it and let the glue cure, and after about an hour then we can go outside, sand, and then finish. And of course this piece right here fits in and gets screwed in at the very bottom, left and right. Maple cork in the bottle. Whenever I have a counter bored hole, I tap that home. I don't like to use glue. If I have to reverse it, I can pry those out, away we go, and they'll stay there. Now on the crest rail, that cherry crest rail, I have to finish cutting these notches out, and I'll tell you, there is no better way to do it than this, razor saw style. I think I'm there. Yeah, just like that. I'll do the same for the other side. Notch that, and the seat boards will come up and on. I cut a curve on the bandsaw out for the two outside pieces, one screw per seat board, and of course I'll sand this all down. So I'll get that done. When I sand, I like to work through 100, 150, and 220 grit sandpaper. And then I'll tack it all off. And from there, I'll use Arm R Seal semi-gloss finish to really make this chair shine. I'll get that done. We'll take a look at the finished chair. There's never enough time to do all the things I want to do on the show, but I guarantee you one thing. When you tackle a project like this from a wonderful magazine and you make it your own by changing the dimensions, well, I call that time well spent. So that's it for today. Thanks for staying with us. And don't forget Susie's Rocking Horse, that's on Facebook. So check it out. See you next week. Yeah. That's looking good.
Woodcraft, since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Pro Tools. For tool pros. Rikon Tools.
Woodcraft Magazine. Projects, plans, and web links designed to help you make wood work. P.S. Wood, home of Timberwolf Swedish silicon steel bandsaw blades and super sharp scroll saw blades. A bed to sleep on. A table to share meals. A house that feels like a home. The Furniture Bank of Central Ohio, providing furniture to neighbors in need.
For more information on tips behind the American Woodshop and watch free episodes 24/7, check us out online and like us on Facebook.